Yes, people, welcome back to the channel where today we are talking about Nottingham Forest and their transfer window, rating it out of 10. How good are the signings? Will any of the signings flop? We will see, because Nottingham Forest owner Marinakis has had an eventful summer. We've seen him having a bust up with Nuno, but Nuno, he's still here. He still remains. We've seen the Morgan Gibbs-White situation. 1 minute he's at Spurs, next minute he's staying. So what does the future hold for Morgan Gibbs-White? But Marinakis and Nuno seem to be on a collision course. But the signings are not. They've spent money. Amari Hutchinson's coming. Dan Ndoye's coming. Backwards coming. Douglas Luiz is coming. Igor Jesus. James McAtee. And many others have walked through the door of Nottingham Forest. So can they do what they done last season? Finish in the top 10 and compete for Europe? Well, we're going to discuss the transfer window right now. So guys, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and stay tuned, because I am actually joined by none other than a great Forest fan. Now, I've known this guy for a little while now. We go back and forth, but I love it because we always do it respectfully. But today we're here to talk football, and I've brought one of the best Nottingham Forest content creators on with me. So welcome, Wolfie, to the channel. A debut as well. Just like transfer deadline day, he's going to be making his debut on here as well. I signed, a 5 million loan fee, 15 million obligation to buy. Welcome. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. Thanks for having me on, man.
Nah, it's good.
To sit down, talk ball with you. International break, nothing else to do, so let's do it.
No. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And actually, like, we're not even winding up each other. We're actually going to talk a bit about football today, which is
It's not
great,
a panel
actually.
thing, isn't it? It's proper
It's
football.
not a panel thing. It's content, guys. So, guys, make sure you do check out Wolfie's content. If you're a general football fan and you watch my content and didn't know that, obviously, Wolfie does Forest content, please make sure you check out his channel down below in the description. Make sure you show love. A great guy as well, so please do that. And also like this video on my way to 5K, so please show some love. So we're going to talk about the Forest window. We're going to talk about some of the main signings that I spoke to Wolfie about, which he wants to discuss, and then we're going to wrap it up, putting our ratings in out of 10. So, guys, make sure you do let me know your ratings for each of these signings and then your overall rating as well. So the first one we're going to go with, Wolfie, is Dan Ndoye. He's obviously joined the football club from Bologna. Interesting season for him last year. We saw Bologna lift their first trophy in, I think, over 50, 60 years. And he was a key part of it, winning that Italian Cup, beating AC Milan. Last year, he scored 8 goals, got 4 assists for them in the league. He's come to Forest. You've already seen him get 1 goal, 1 assist. He's starting for them. He's playing on that sort of right-hand side where Callum Hudson-Odoi is playing on the other side. But yeah, what do you think of this signing? Because I kind of liked it when I look at, Elanga was leaving the football club and you need to go out and, replace someone like Elanga who's so effective, especially on transition as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. 35 mil, I think he cost us. A lot of people were comparing him directly to Elanga. I don't think their profiles match. I think Elanga, you'll know Elanga from his time with United. Elanga's all about the pace, whereas 100%. Dan Ndoye, he's not slow, but he's not as quick as Elanga.
Yeah.
I think he's more techie than Elanga.
Yeah,
and
he is.
I'm still figuring out, is he right-sided or left-sided? Because I think he's actually played better on the left. Nuno tends to start him on the right and then switches him up second half. And when you look at his stats at Bologna, he was, I think, a lot better on the left-hand side. I don't think we've seen the best out of him. He's so far it's only been a couple of games, right? But so far, his GA has outperformed his eye test. That makes sense.
Yeah, got you.
So he's got the goal, a really good goal, a header against Brentford, I think it was, on his debut. And a lovely assist for Callum Hudson-Odoi against Palace.
Crystal Palace.
With a lovely ball, kind of split the lines. So I think it's still early days to judge him. I'm not there comparing him to Elanga because what we've been told as a fan base is that Forest are looking to switch away from that counter-attack defensive style football to a more possession-based football 100%. Because you can't really do that without pace, and you need Elanga to be able to hit on that transition. So I think in terms of meeting that profile, if indeed that is what Forest are trying to do, he will be an important cog for it. But so far, so good with him. I think I will like to see him more on the left-hand side, but that's kind of Callum Hudson-Odoi's position.
I was going to say, that's tricky because obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi is a bit more of a staple in the team. He knows the way Nuno wants to play. He's played, with Nico Williams and built that relationship as well. But then again, because you guys are back in Europe this year, aren't you?
Yeah, Europa.
Yeah, so being back in Europe, in Europa, it gives you now that quality and depth, because that's what you're going to
Yeah.
want to do. These signings for me, which we're going to go through, you look at we look at Newcastle from a couple of years back. You look at Aston Villa, and yes, it was great them being in the Champions League and playing 2 games a week, but we saw them really suffer because doing the 2 games and a lack of quality in the depth they had, they suffered in one or the other competitions. But now, when you've got Hudson Ndoye, you've got Hutchinson, you've got Dan Ndoye now. This is where you can say, right, someone can play on a Thursday, and the other person can play on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly
100%.
that. At this stage, I feel that we have the ability to put 2 teams out. Now,
Yeah.
the question will be, is the quality of Team A, will it match the quality of Team B? But we have some somewhat easy games in the Europa League. So does the quality in the group stages that you put out need to be as strong? Say you're playing I don't know, Malmo, I think we've got
Yeah.
on Thursday, for example, and then we're playing a Man City or an Arsenal on Sunday, you can probably put a slightly weakened team out for the Europa League match. Whereas if we were in Europe this time last season, you'd be putting the same 11 out on the Thursday that you are on
Yeah.
the Sunday. So
And one
I
of them
think
will
they've
suffer.
exactly. And we saw that suffering towards the end of last season where Forest had a small squad. Nuno likes to play with a small squad. And we saw the kind of batteries run out towards the end of the season as we kind of bottled that Champions League spot. So it's been addressed, I think, this summer in terms of the squad depth. But now it's up to Nuno, if he's still in a job, to figure out what the right starting 11 is for each competition.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I completely agree. It's going to be very interesting. I'm going to see how Ndoye plays. And I think he's one of them players because he's got the physicality. I think that's one thing that will actually serve him in a good way, because a lot of players we've seen go to any clubs in the Premier League and they come from Europe and they struggle with the physicality and the pace of the Premier League. I think because he is quite strong and, he's got that Switzerland background, I think he'll be absolutely fine. And it's so interesting to see how he does develop as the season goes on. The next one we're going to discuss is James McAtee, because he has obviously arrived from Manchester City. This one I don't know how I feel about this one, because I feel like he's been very instrumental in terms of England winning the under-21 Euro competition, obviously helping, him and Harvey Elliott were really the catalyst, sort of linking the midfield to the attack. But he's been played at Man City and he's had moments where he's had a run of games, but I don't feel like he's really made me think, yeah, top player. But then at the same time, I'm like, does he need to go to a club where he just takes that drop down a level and he can get consistent game time? He can find himself. But I don't know how I feel quite about this one. I'm so interested to hear your thoughts on James McAtee, signing for your football club. And it was about a 25 million euro fee. I'm doing it in euros. So yeah, in pounds, probably around 20 million.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued as well by this one because I think his strongest position is in the 10, which is obviously Morgan Gibbs-White's slot.
Agreed.
But with what happened over the summer with Gibbs-White and Spurs, you almost feel that the way they've kept him with the new contract, making him the captain, I can't see how they drop him. Now I have my own strong opinions on Gibbs-White, and I would like to see McAtee given a chance in the 10. My feeling is he will be used as rotation and relief for Gibbs-White, which I don't agree with. I think that I've seen plenty within him to say he has a lot of potential to hold down that 10 position. I think he's a better finisher than Gibbs-White. I think he's got good energy that he can bring onto the pitch, but he does have versatility. He can play on the right-hand side as well,
On the right,
which is what we've seen him do when he's come on his sub appearances in the season so far. But I would like to see him get at least a couple of games in the 10.
Do
and just
you
a
think
little
if he
run.
does, because obviously he's an England international, same as Gibbs-White as well, senior under 21s, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, even though Gibbs-White is the captain, he signed a new deal until 2027, so we know that probably in the next 2 years he's going to be off. At the end of the day, just because someone's the captain, I don't feel that they should be a licensed to start. Same thing for me. You see with
Agreed.
Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes, we're seeing Amrim say Kobe Mainoo has to take on Bruno Fernandes for his spot, but everyone's like, because he's captain, well, he's going to play. But if Gibbs-White isn't quite delivering his best performances, and McAtee is, and whether it's the Europa League he's playing in or the Premier League coming on and making an impact, why is there not a potential that McAtee could take his spot? There's no license that Gibbs-White is guaranteed the starting position.
Yeah, and we saw that last season. Ryan Yates was our captain, and he got dropped for a lot of the season. So Nuno just seems, on track record, not to hold the captaincy to such high valuation in terms of starting. However, the fact they've made him the highest paid player at the club, It's very similar, Ty. I always liken Gibbs-White to Bruno when I do comparisons to other.
Interesting.
So Gibbs-White is our pin-up boy. He's the poster boy. When you watch the highlight reels, it's Gibbs-White doing this lovely through ball or this trick
Yeah.
or what have you. What they're not showing you is the other 89 minutes where he's misplaced a pass, where he's gone for a Hollywood ball out of the pitch, or his shots have skied over the stands. So I think when Gibbs-White, for me, I would put him in the 8. I think he would be
Okay.
much better in the 8 because one, he can't shoot, and two, he can dictate the play better from deeper in midfield.
So
And that's where
while we're
McAtee
talking about it, then, if you said you were going to put him in the 8, where does that leave someone like Elliot Anderson or
don't know.
Sangari or Douglas Luiz? Because Elliot Anderson has now got an England call up. He seems to be the one that is the heartbeat of Nottingham Forest midfield in terms of all action, defensive, and going forward. So would that mean dropping Elliot Anderson, which some Forest fans in here might be watching and thinking, no, Wolf, we can't do that?
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. My personal preference would be to drop Gibbs-White. Would be my personal preference. Yeah. I would, if we were playing in a 4-2-3-1, I would like to see McAtee in the 10, Anderson in the 8, maybe Douglas Luiz there. I don't know. The squad at the moment, bro, I need a bit more of a sample size to know where everyone's fitting in, if that makes sense. But I would personally go to a 4-3-3. So I would go with midfield 3 of Douglas Luiz, Anderson, and maybe Sangare as the 6. Put 2 wingers up and a striker up top. But I still want to fit McAtee, and I see potential in him, but I don't think we need to bring him in as quickly.
You
as
don't need to maybe rush him in. That might be a signing for the future, or potentially even a Gibbs-White replacement. Because let's be honest, Gibbs-White is signed a deal to 2027. Me and you know football, Wolfie. You're selling him next summer because you want a fee. You're not letting him go on a free. So, Marinakis is not going to tie his hand behind his back and say, yeah, we're going to let our club captain go for free. You signed him for 45+ million from Wolves. I remember raising my eyebrows at it. Now it makes sense, of course. But that was back then. So you're going to get your money next summer. And maybe McAtee has been viewed as, right, let's get him now while nobody's really in for him. And, we can line up the future.
Replacement. Yeah, I would say there is some sense behind what you're saying there, bro. And I could see that happening. But, has McAtee got ambitions of the World Cup? I probably think it's too early for him this season. So maybe the next Euros and what have you. But that's I agree with you. I think that's how it will eventually play out. But at the moment, Gibbs-White is our Bruno Fernandes, in my opinion.
Yeah, interested. No, great stuff there, guys. Make sure you're liking this video. Make sure you subscribe into both channels, myself and Wolfie's channel there for Nottingham Forest content. And it's funny that you were talking about Douglas Luiz, because this is the one for me out of all your transfers, when I look at it, that stands out, because I've looked at your midfield, and like we said, used to play a lot of transition football as well. But I feel like Nottingham Forest have lacked a little bit of control at times. And I feel like 100%. Adding Douglas Luiz now to your team gives you that. He's got the Premier League experience from Aston Villa. He was a very good player at Aston Villa. Let's not forget Arsenal wanted him about 2 seasons ago. Yes, he's gone to Italy and it hasn't quite worked out. I never say that means a player's bad. If a player goes to another club and it doesn't work out, he's still a good player. It just hasn't worked out there. But I think bringing him back to the Premier League at the ripe age, I think he's about 27. He wants to get back in that Brazil World Cup squad. He gives you that calmness, that composure. He's played 6, he's played 8. I feel like now, with you guys being back in European football, he's that perfect type of player you then need. Because you even mentioned it, Wolfie, at the start of the video, you said you feel like you're going away from just playing transition football and having a Langer and them guys on the break. Now it's like, okay, can we dominate the ball a bit more? Can we control the tempo? And having someone like Douglas Luiz in there, I think, is what brings you that balance to the midfield. You've got Sangari, you've got Elliot Anderson, and now you've got Douglas Luiz. So, what do you think of this signing here that you brought in, the midfielder from Juventus?
I completely agree with every word you said. Forest, for me, the biggest issue we've had since we've been back in the Premier League is midfield control. We've had none of it. We've had none of it. It's too transitional. You almost bypass the midfield at times. And for me, I think Douglas Luiz gets misprofiled quite a bit. A lot of people have him down as a 6. I think he's an 8. I think he's a brilliant 8 as well. And he just brings some great control. He brings goals, dead balls as well. He can score from a free kick, takes corners. We've been lacking in a dead ball specialist from a 25-yard free kick and what have you. So he brings that. He for me is an automatic starter. I don't know what the balance is with him in there, but the big issue right now, Douglas Luiz, is the politics about his signing, because he's an Edu signing. Edu, as you mentioned rightly, Edu
Okay.
wanted him at Arsenal a couple of seasons back. It didn't quite work out, and Edu's been
Yeah.
able to bring him in to Forest. Nuno didn't want him. And we've seen that to be
Okay.
evident in the opening 2 or 3 games. He hasn't seen a second of football on the pitch yet, which is
Yeah,
absolutely
which is
baffling us.
interesting
Mm,
because, well, you look at the situation, losing to West Ham like you did, and
mm,
you've drawn away at Palace. There's been reasons where he could easily come on. It's not like you've been winning
yeah,
4-0 and you're like, do you know what? Nah, it's cool. We'll just give him time to get fit.
yeah. It's very frustrating. You can't put a player of that top quality on your bench and not use him. I understand to a certain degree, okay, maybe not start him. It's, get him to this international break, get him a couple of weeks on the training pitch and what have you. But don't give me, he played a handful of games for Juventus, therefore he's not match fit. The man can play 15, 20 minutes. I can still play 15, 20
Yeah,
minutes of football. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
why put him
and
on the
I do
bench?
have a question for you, Wolfie, which I'm glad we're doing this. We're just doing this off the cuff, which is nice.
Mm,
Is that you even said that I see him more as a number 8? I actually agree with that statement. The only question I have for you is that I agree that he's better of a number 8, and I think he can be used in that sort of profile. However, for Nottingham Forest, because of the lack of proper number 6s you have, even though you have Sangari there, who's more of a destroyer, do you
mm.
think as a number 6, even though Sangari is more of a natural in that position, do you think Douglas Luiz is better? So if he's going to play and start, you have to have him in the number 6 because Elliot Anderson effectively is the number 8. Do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. That's why I would like to switch to a 4-3-3. So you're playing
Yeah,
2 eights with Anderson and Luis as the 8s and Sangare anchoring behind them.
yeah,
But I do agree with what you say. I think Nuno will profile him as a 6 if he gets over his ego and starts to play him. And I think he will drop Sangare. And you almost see like a double pivot of
yeah,
Anderson and Luis in there.
yep,
Probably would see that more so against the lower teams, where Forest are at home trying to be more aggressive, like drop Sangare as an out-and-out 6 and have that double pivot where we can maybe win the ball higher up the pitch with Anderson and Douglas Luiz. Or there is, and there's a few fans asking for this, seeing Elliot Anderson as the 6 because his work rates are phenomenal. And he's
I
very
don't
good. I think he's got the most tackles already this season as a
Yeah, I
midfielder
don't know
as
if that's
well.
limiting him though, because I agree with
I
you. Because
agree.
he's all
He's an
action,
8.
you want to see him.
Yeah,
He's the engine. He's a
yeah,
Bruno Guimaraes. Like when Newcastle play Bruno Guimaraes a bit
yeah,
deeper, if someone's out, it's not the same. But if you allow him just to get up and
exactly.
down, you
I
get
fully
more.
agree. So
Yeah,
it comes back to the point, Ty, where even I'm not sure of what the strongest team is, what the strongest setup is yet. I know we have a very good squad, but this is
yeah,
where you have to point the finger towards the manager and say, right, the tools have been given to you now, figure it out. Because
yeah.
you've got enough players, now find the balance.
That's
Yes,
it.
some players will get upset, but as you mentioned at the start, we've got a lot of games this season with Europe, with the cups and everything. So
Hmm.
go figure it out. But back to Douglas Luiz, this is one of my favorite signings of the window because I saw him at Villa. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. What happened at Juventus was misprofiling. He got played in the 6 a few times. The manager changed as well. He didn't get used. The system as well didn't suit him there. So yeah, I can't wait. Well, I hope Nuno starts to use him and use him
Yeah,
properly,
you can
mate.
get the best out of him. 100%. Obviously, it's going to be interesting because your first game back, obviously after the international break,
Arsenal.
is Arsenal away. Yeah,
Mm,
and this perfectly takes me into one of the most. So I've gone from Douglas Luiz, who I'd say is my most favorite signing for you guys. The most intriguing one for me is actually this player. It's Arnold Kalimuendo from Rennes. Now, if people don't know much about him, had a very good season for
mm,
Rennes last year. 33 games he played in the French Ligue 1, and he scored 17 goals and got 3 assists. Now, that's 20 goal contributions. Any player getting 20 goal contributions in a forward line, you're thinking that's a very good signing, especially when you're playing for a team like Rennes. He's not a PSG, by the way. He's coming from
mm.
Rennes, sort of a mid-table to try and break it into Europe, that type of team there. So that is a very, very good season for him. The year before that, 30 games, 10 goals, 1 assist. What I like about him is he's got good finishing. He's quick. He can take on players, and he's got a bit of versatility where he can play a bit on the left, on the right, and also play up top at times. So I'm looking at this as like one of them interesting profiles where I'm like, where are Forest going to play him? Where does Nuno see him? Is he going to be more of a European player for the Europa League? Is he going to get chances in the Premier League? Because obviously you've got Igor Jesus as well. But in terms of like interesting signings, when something pops up along the bottom of your screen, it's like Nottingham Forest signing Kalimuendo. I'm thinking, okay, like I love this. Like teams going for
Mm.
different type of players, not just your typical bog standard Premier League always known players. Like actually go out, find little gems, and this could be someone like that. What do you think of the sign of Arnold Kalimuendo?
I think this is an excellent signing. There were a lot of clubs in for him. I think Spurs were looking at him. West Ham
Yep.
had a look as well, and a few other Premier League teams. The reason I like this is because I think he's a completely different profile to the likes of Chris Wood and Igor Jesus.
Yeah.
He's very quick on the turn. He's quick in general, good finisher. He brings a different profile to what we already had. So when we got Chris Wood up front, yes, he's good in terms of getting his. I mean, he's fantastic in terms of his goals, 20 plus last season. But he lacks a lot of pace. Igor, and he tended to drop in to play almost like a false nine at times, where Forest was sitting slightly deeper to help with that. Igor Jesus is somewhat similar in his style. Now, there are differences within there, but Igor Jesus likes to come looking for the ball as well, and then quick layoffs and then spins and tries to get it behind. Obviously, he's a lot quicker than Wood. Kalimuendo, for me, has got the pace, he's got the profile, and he just likes to score a goal. I can see him when we come up against, quicker fullbacks that are less physical or something. Kalimuendo is the one you're going to want to use. I can see him doing very well in the European run as well, using him up front. And also it becomes a relief for Chris Wood as well, who's well into his 30s now. You've got to expect a few injuries or a few tired games or what have you. So this one is very exciting for me.
So where do you see Kalimuendo playing up front and also on the wings, but you see Igor Jesus coming in and more just staying as the number 9 behind Wood in the pecking order?
I got Kalimuendo down as a striker, an out and out 9 for me.
So him and Jesus are battling for that sort of second striker spot.
Yeah, exactly. What's his name? Nuno tried to experiment with 2 up front in the preseason. It didn't work for me. Right. I think all these profile, like you could do the whole Crouch Defoe thing with Kalimuendo and Wood. Maybe. You know what I mean? He wasn't here preseason, so we didn't get to see it. But I just think this guy's going to surprise a few people this season. He's going to bag a few goals for me. And it's just a case of will Nuno use him right. Now, again, Chris Wood deserves that starting spot, 20 plus in a Premier League
he's proven in the Premier League.
It's fantastic. But I've always said if I can get 6 more months out of Chris Wood, I'm happy, because he's 33 going 34 now. Give me 6 months. 100%. But again, I think this is future-proofing us so that come next season, once Chris Wood is probably you have to expect a dip in form, although he keeps defying logic at the moment. Then you got someone who's already in the club ready to kind of take on the crown for him. And he will be having to fight it out with Igor Jesus. Igor Jesus was not a Nuno signing. It was an Edu one. So I would expect Kalimuendo to be higher up the pecking order than Igor Jesus.
Okay, that is the perfect way to lead me on to the next segment, because I was actually going to ask you, who did you see being more in the pecking order? So we're going to go with Kalimuendo over Igor Jesus. Kalimuendo was signed for 30 million euros from Rennes, great age of 23. And I think that's what I like about this Nottingham Forest window, by the way, just to add. The players you're signing all are like 20 years of age up to 24. So it shows that you're building a team, like you said, for now, but actually the future as well. And I think that is something to really be excited about. And one player I know you're really excited about, well, potentially 2. We're going to talk about the wingers because, most of your money in terms of, the budget has gone on Ndoye, Hutchinson and Bakwa that are more seen as sort of like wider players. Now, Bakwa's coming from Strasbourg. I'm going to admit to you, I watch a lot of football, but I have not really watched Bakwa. So I want to know your thoughts on him and Omari Hutchinson, who was the actual most expensive signing you made this transfer window.
I am really excited about Bakwa. It looked for about 2 weeks ago like it might be off. But what I've been crying out for, apart from a Douglas Luiz style midfielder, is a dribbler on the wing, bro. Someone who can pick the ball up, will attack the defense, takes plenty of touches, on his way there. Like, Elanga for me is slightly different. He could push and run it. He could get in
push
behind.
And run it, or he runs onto a loose ball. But you need someone that can get the ball and actually travel with it.
Bakwa is the opposite for me. And Bakwa, for me, goes straight in. He can pick the ball up in and around his 100%. In and around the halfway line, he'll pick it up. He'll turn, he'll dribble, he'll take his man on. He will start to push that defensive line back. creating more space for Forest to build up into. And more importantly, he scores goals and he gets assists. And he was my number 2 choice. I had my dream number 1 choice was Akliush, the guy from
Okay,
Monaco.
from Monaco. Yeah.
Absolute baller, but that was a dream, kind of, I had a dream, Martin Luther King settings. But Bakwa, absolutely fantastic, bro. And already, even just before he joined Forest at the start of the season, I think he got a couple of goals and a couple of assists. And he scored in his last game against Monaco. And ironically enough, Akliush scored for Monaco as well. So look, I think people undermine the non-Premier League leagues. They think that everything is a farmers league outside of the Premier League. Yeah.
And you know what about the French league as well? I always say the French league is the league. And when you buy a player from there, they always acclimatize to the Premier League the easiest. Underrated.
Absolutely.
The French league is so underrated. So
yeah, there are so many good players, bro. So many good players.
He comes in as a starter. So where does that leave Ndoye? Where does that leave Amari Hutchinson? He's coming as the most, the most expensive player. That doesn't mean he has to start, but you know, he's Premier League proven. We know him from Ipswich. We know him from the Arsenal Academy. If you're going with Bakwa, where does this leave Hutchinson? And we'll go into that signing then.
So on Hutchinson, yes, he was the most expensive signing. This one definitely has Eddie's fingerprints on it. As you just rightly mentioned, he was in the Arsenal Academy. So Edu's had good sight on him. He's been left out of our European squad, by the way. There's a lot of controversy going on about it. So Nuno's dropped him out of there. So that already tells me like the politics are politicking in the background.
Right.
I think he's a good player, but I think we overpaid for him. Hutchinson for me is probably a 20, max 25 million pound player.
Yeah,
we paid 37 million. I've had loads of Ipswich mates saying thank you, appreciate the fee. So I think he will develop, but I think he's still too young, bro. I think he's still too young, and I would have him as a very good backup. I wouldn't be surprised if Nuno, in the mindset he is looking at him as a sub and in the cup matches. So we might see him against Swansea in the League Cup. But I'm not against the signing. He wasn't really on my shopping list, if I'm being honest with you. I just don't think he did enough last season at Ipswich in the Premier League for me to think, you know what, that's a bit of a gem that's standing out.
He doesn't quite give you, like, if you're going to the games, you're not like bums off seats. Like, oh my God, my Hutchinson starting. With Bakwa, I know what you mean. It gives you that sort of, right, let's see what he's about. Like,
and he's an unknown. Not a lot of people have seen a lot of Bakwa. And that's what I like about him. I've kind of been monitoring this guy, and I'm like, wow. And he was sought after from a few Premier League clubs as well. So Forest did really well to get him over the line. But yeah, it's a good sign. It's a good squad, bro. It's a good squad. We just got to figure out the right 11.
Right 11 and getting the balance right. So my last questions then, and guys, make sure you are liking this video. Make sure you are subscribing, people. Check out this content. I can't believe how quick it's gone. If you've been stayed here for the whole 27 minutes, I hope you've enjoyed it. Great content. In terms of 2 questions to wrap up with, who are your top 3 signings then? So we look at Amari Hutchinson, Dan Ndoye, Delane Bakwa, Arnold Kalimuendo, James McAtee, Igor Jesus. You signed Savona from Juventus as a right back as well. You've got Cunha from Botafogo, John Victor the keeper, Douglas Luiz, and obviously we know Zinchenko from Arsenal. But who would be your top 3?
I'd go Douglas Luiz, Bakwa, Kalimuendo. Those are the 3 I'm really, really excited about. I think in general, most of the signings have been very good, but those are the 3 that I'm kind of keeping an eye out for.
I wanted to do something where I disagreed here, but I actually agree with all 3. Douglas Luiz for the proven, bringing that centre mid experience. Kalimuendo, I like the different type of profile, and Bakwa for the excitement, the unknown. And I always love an unknown because it'd be probably 1 month and I'll be making a video on him. So let's see what happens. And then rating your window out of 10, what would you give it?
I'd give it good 8, very good 8, because we got over 100 million sold as well. So it's been a very good window.
Very good window. There we go, guys. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on Nottingham Forest window. Let me also know your top 3 signings, or if you want to speak about anyone individually, let me know in the comments, and I will get back to you, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to both channels. Show love for the love. Good luck this season, Nottingham Forest. And Wolfie, I appreciate you coming on as always, bro.
Pleasure to be on, bro.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you on the next one.